AITA for taking my mom's key after she walked in on us. When my mom used her emergency-only key to barge into my apartment 2 hours early, she got an eyeful and an earful of my adult life. Now, my entire family is blowing up my phone, calling me disrespectful. But I have to ask, am I the A***hole for having a private life in my own home? Or is my mother the one who crossed a line she can never uncross? My name is Alex, and for the first time in my 26 years on this planet, I truly felt like I was breathing my own air. The apartment wasn't anything spectacular. A 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor with a view of the building's parking lot and a balcony just big enough for 2 folding chairs. But it was ours. Mine and Chloe's. Every scuff on the hardwood floor from moving the couch, the faint smell of her vanilla candle permanently woven into the curtains, the mismatched mugs in the cupboard. It was all a testament to a life we were building, brick by brick, away from the shadows of our parents. It was a lazy Saturday, the kind that feels earned after a grueling week. I'm a project manager for a tech startup, a world of endless deadlines and sprint cycles. Chloe is a graphic designer whose creativity often leaves her hunched over a tablet long after her official hours. Our weeks were a whirlwind of Slack notifications, client meetings, and lukewarm takeout. But Saturdays? Saturdays were sacred. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, painting stripes of gold across the rumpled sheets of our bed. Chloe was asleep beside me, her chestnut hair fanned out across the pillow, one hand tucked under her cheek. The digital clock on my nightstand glowed 1:47 p.m. We'd slept in, a small, decadent rebellion against the alarm clocks that ruled our lives. The peace was broken, as it often was, by my phone vibrating on the nightstand. I fumbled for it, squinting at the screen. "Mom," I sighed, a low, familiar sound of resignation. "Hey, Mom." "Alex, sweetie, I'm making my famous lasagna today. The one with the 3 cheeses you like." Her voice was bright, a little too forceful, like she was trying to inject joy directly into my ear. "That's great, Mom. Sounds good. I thought I'd drop some off for you and Chloe. You two never eat properly. All that delivery food." I could hear the judgment, thinly veiled as concern. "We eat fine, Mom. But lasagna is always welcome. You can come by after 4 o'clock. We're just having a lazy morning." "A lazy morning? It's almost 2 p.m., Alexander. When your father and I were your age, we'd already tilled the fields and built a barn with your bare hands, I know." I finished, a wry smile on my face. It was an old, comfortable joke. After 4 o'clock is perfect. Just text before you head over, okay? Of course, of course. See you then, sweetie. Love you. Love you too, Mom." I ended the call and dropped the phone back on the nightstand. Chloe stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "The general planning a tactical strike?" she mumbled, her voice thick with sleep. I laughed, leaning over to kiss her forehead. "A lasagna drop-off. After 4 mm. A worthy mission." She stretched, a slow, cat-like movement, and smiled up at me. "So, we have time." That was the understatement of the century. We had 2 whole, uninterrupted hours. The world outside, with its demands and expectations, melted away. This was our sanctuary. We were 2 consenting, committed, ridiculously in-love adults, in a home we paid for, with a day stretching out before us full of possibility. What followed was the kind of intimate, connected morning that makes you grateful for your life. It was laughter and whispered secrets, the simple, profound joy of being with your person. The sun was warm, the air was still, and for that perfect, suspended hour, everything was exactly as it should be. Not a knock, not a doorbell. The distinct, metallic scrape-scratch thunk of a key being inserted and turned in the deadbolt. My entire body went rigid. Chloe froze beneath me, her eyes wide with alarm. "Did you just hear that?" she whispered. Before I could answer, the familiar creak of our front door swinging open cut through the silence. Heavy, confident footsteps echoed in our small entryway. "Alex? Honey, I'm here. I know you said after 4, but I finished the lasagna early and I thought, why wait?" My mother's voice, booming through the apartment, was a bucket of ice water. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. We were naked, exposed, and the one person in the world who could make me feel like a guilty teenager again was now standing in our living room. "Oh my God," Chloe breathed, scrambling to pull the sheets up to her chin. "Alex." The footsteps didn't stop in the living room. They came closer, down the short hallway, towards our bedroom. My brain, fogged with panic and adrenaline, finally kicked into gear. "The key," I hissed. She used her emergency key. The banging started before we could even process it. Not a polite tap, but a series of sharp, percussive thuds that made the bedroom door shudder in its frame. "Alex, I know you're in there." The doorknob jiggled violently. Thank God I'd had the presence of mind to lock it out of habit. "Alexander James, open this door. I know what you're doing in there. Have some respect." Each word was a shard of glass. Chloe had buried her face in a pillow, her shoulders trembling. I didn't know if she was crying or just trying to disappear. A hot wave of shame, immediately followed by a torrent of pure, undiluted rage, washed over me. This was my home. Our home. "Just a second, Mom," I yelled, my voice cracking with a humiliating blend of anger and fear. I vaulted out of bed, grabbing a pair of sweatpants from the floor and yanking them on. I threw a t-shirt towards Chloe. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. She just shook her head, her face pale. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, and unlocked the door, opening it just enough to slip through and block her view into the room. My mother stood there, a vision of righteous indignation. She was holding the glass lasagna dish like a shield, her knuckles white. Her face was flushed, her lips pressed into a thin, disapproving line. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice low and tight. "I said after 4. And since when do you just let yourself in?" She glared at me, her eyes sweeping over my disheveled state. "I am your mother. I don't need an appointment. And what am I doing here? What are you doing, carrying on like some animal in the middle of the day while you have guests over?" The absurdity of it was staggering. "Guests? Mom, you are the guest. An unannounced, uninvited guest who used a key I gave you for emergencies. Is there a fire? A flood? A medical crisis? No. There's just lasagna and a complete disregard for my privacy. Don't you take that tone with me, young man," she snapped, her voice rising. "What you're doing is disgusting and inappropriate. In the broad daylight. What if I had been your sister? Or your father? Then they would have had the common decency to call first and not barge into my bedroom." I was shouting now, the last vestiges of my control snapping. "We are 26 years old. We live together. What exactly did you think was happening in our bedroom on a Saturday morning?" It was at that moment that Chloe emerged. She had pulled on my t-shirt and a pair of shorts, her hair a mess, her face a carefully constructed mask of neutrality. She didn't look at my mother. She just walked past us, her head held high, and went straight to the entryway where her keys and purse were. "Chloe, honey, I hope you have a little more self-respect than this," my mother said, her tone shifting to one of cloying, false concern. "A young woman should be ashamed to be carrying on like that." Chloe stopped. She turned slowly, and the look she gave my mother could have frozen hell. She didn't say a word. She just looked from my mother's furious face to my desperate one, shook her head in utter contempt, and walked out the front door, closing it with a quiet, definitive click. That sound was more devastating than any slam could have been. It was the sound of her dignity, and the sound of my failure to protect it. The fight drained out of me, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. My mother had not just invaded my apartment. She had attacked my partner and shattered the peace of our home. "Get out," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Excuse me. Get out of my apartment. Now." She blinked, stunned. "Alexander, you are being completely unreasonable. I am your mother. And this is my home," I interrupted, walking over to her and holding out my hand. "And you will give me the key, right now." Her face crumpled from anger into something resembling hurt. "You're kicking me out? Over this? There is no this. There is you, violating every boundary we have, disrespecting my girlfriend, and shaming us for having a normal, healthy relationship in our own home. The key. Now." For a moment, I thought she would refuse. She clutched the lasagna dish tighter, as if it were a lifeline. We stood there in a silent, furious standoff in the hallway my girlfriend had just fled. Finally, with a trembling hand, she fumbled in her purse, pulled out the silver key, and slapped it into my palm. "I am deeply, deeply disappointed in you, Alex," she said, her voice quivering with what I now know was performative heartbreak. "I didn't raise you to be this disrespectful." She turned and walked out, leaving me standing alone in the silence. The only evidence she'd ever been there was the lukewarm lasagna sitting on our console table and the ghost of her words hanging in the air. The first hour was the worst. I texted Chloe. I am so sorry. She's gone. I got the key back. Please come home. The three little dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. I'm at the coffee shop on Elm. I need some space. I'll be back later. The space felt like a physical chasm opening up in our apartment. I cleaned furiously, trying to erase the psychic imprint of the confrontation. I put the lasagna in the fridge, the sight of it making me nauseous. I kept replaying the scene in my head, each time finding new, more cutting things I should have said. My phone started buzzing around 6 p.m. It was my dad. Alex, what on earth did you say to your mother? She came home sobbing. She says you threw her out of your apartment and stole her key. The misdirection was breathtaking. Stole her key? Dad? She barged in on Chloe and me while we were intimate. She showed up 2 hours early, used the emergency key, and started screaming at us through the bedroom door. She called Chloe shameful. I told her to leave and asked for the key back. That's what happened. There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear the TV in the background. Son, you have to understand how that might have been shocking for her. She's your mother. She still sees you as her little boy. Maybe you could have been more discreet. Discreet? In my own locked bedroom? What was I supposed to do, Dad? Post a schedule on the front door? Sex. 1 to 3 p.m. Please do not disturb. This is insane. Don't be crude, Alex. I'm just saying, was it really necessary to be so harsh? You know how she is. She was just trying to do something nice. The family mantra. You know how she is. It was a get-out-of-jail-free card she had used my entire life. Her intensity, her overbearing nature, it was all just part of the package, and we were all expected to accommodate it. Then my sister, Maya, chimed in via a group text chain she named Family Drama Alert. Maya, dude, you made Mom cry. Not cool. Me. Did she tell you why she was crying? Did she tell you what she did? Maya. She said she came over to bring you food and you and Chloe were being loud and gross, and you yelled at her and kicked her out. You couldn't just stop when you heard her. I stared at the phone, my blood running cold. That was the narrative. My mother, the benevolent lasagna bringer, was scandalized by her son's animalistic behavior and was brutally cast out for her troubles. My feelings, Chloe's humiliation, the violation of our privacy, none of it existed in their version of events. Chloe came home around 8 p.m. She looked tired. I hugged her the moment she walked in, and she stiffened for a second before relaxing into it. I am so sorry, I whispered into her hair. I have no words for how unacceptable that was. She pulled away and sat on the couch, tucking her feet underneath her. It's not your fault, Alex. It's hers. But it's the way she spoke to me. Self-respect. Ashamed. Who does she think she is? Her voice broke. I've never been so humiliated in my life. I know, and I should have ended it the second she said your name. I'm sorry it took me so long to get her out. Your dad called me, she said quietly. What? When? About an hour ago. He asked me to talk some sense into you. He said your mom is heartbroken and that we all need to be more understanding of her delicate feelings. I saw red. He had no right to call you. He's your dad. He thinks he has every right, she said with a sigh. Alex, this is a big deal. This isn't just about one bad afternoon. This is about everything. Is this what our future looks like? Every holiday, every birthday, every time we have a kid, is she going to be there, judging me, whispering about my lack of self-respect? The question hung in the air, heavy and unignorable. She was right. This wasn't about sex. It was about control. It was about my mother's refusal to see me as an autonomous adult, and her willingness to tear down the woman I loved to maintain her illusion of ownership over me. Part 4. The Reckoning. The next few days were a cold war waged over text message. Mom, I hope you've had time to reflect on your behavior. I am still your mother, and I deserve a basic level of respect. Me. Respect is a two-way street. You disrespected me, Chloe, and our home. Until you can offer a genuine apology for that, I don't have anything to say. Mom, an apology? For caring about my son? For being concerned that he's being led down a path of vulgarity? Dad, Alex, your mother is not sleeping. This is killing her. Just call her and smooth things over. Be the bigger man. Maya, you're being so stubborn. Just apologize and let's get back to normal. Normal. That was the kicker. They're normal, Was me being a compliant son, managing my mother's emotions, and allowing her to treat my life as an extension of her own. The new normal I wanted, one with boundaries, mutual respect, and my partner treated as an equal, was, to them, a hostile takeover. Chloe and I talked for hours. We talked about our own childhoods, about the families we wanted to build, about what we were and were not willing to accept. It was painful, but it welded us together. We were a united front, or we were nothing. A week after the incident, I was still seething. The texts had slowed, but the pressure was still there, a constant, low-grade hum of familial guilt. I was in the home office, trying to work, when Chloe came in and sat on the edge of my desk. "You need to call your sister," she said softly. "Why? So she can tell me I'm a terrible brother again." "No, I just got off the phone with her." "That got my attention." "You did? Why?" "Because your mom's version of events is a masterpiece of fiction, and someone needed to tell her the truth. The real, unvarnished truth." From my perspective, my heart swelled with a fierce, protective love. "What did you say?" I told her what it felt like to be called a shameful woman by my boyfriend's mother in my own home. I told her how it felt to have my privacy violated like that. I asked her how she'd feel if her boyfriend's mother did that to her. I didn't yell. I just laid it all out. And she listened. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "He really took the key from her?" And I said, "Yes, because it was the only way to make sure it never, ever happens again." She said she'd talk to you. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Maya. "Hey," she said, her voice hesitant. "Hey." I talked to Chloe. I heard. She told me her side. The whole side. It sounded a lot different from Mom's side. "That's because Mom's side is a carefully edited highlight reel where she's the victim," I said, but without the bite I usually reserve for these conversations. "Yeah, I'm starting to get that," Maya admitted with a sigh. "Look, I'm not saying you were wrong. What Mom did was unhinged. But Alex, she's never going to apologize. You know that, right? In her mind, she is the wrong party. She's built her entire identity on being the perfect mother, and you rejecting her like that, it shattered her worldview. So what am I supposed to do? Just rug sweep? Let her treat Chloe like that?" "No," Maya said, her voice firm. "No, you can't. But you might have to be the one to set the new terms. Without expecting an apology. For your own peace." She was right. I knew she was right. My mother, in her own twisted way, was hurting. But her hurt did not give her the right to inflict pain on us. Another week passed. The texts from my parents had stopped. The silence was both a relief and an anxiety-inducing void. Chloe and I reclaimed our space, our routines. The memory of the invasion began to fade, replaced by the comforting day-to-day of our life together. Then, on a Sunday evening, my phone lit up. It was a text from my mother. My stomach clenched. "Mom, I'm leaving a bag from your father on your doorstep. He was in the area." That was it. No hello. No how are you. But also no accusations. It was a transaction. A peace offering, of sorts, delivered from a safe distance. I waited 10 minutes, then went downstairs. On the doorstep was a small paper bag. Inside was a book my dad had promised to lend me, and 2 of my favorite cookies from the bakery near their house. It was normal. Bizarrely, heartbreakingly normal. I brought it upstairs and showed Chloe. She gave a small, sad smile. "It's a start," she said. I texted back. "Got it. Thanks." 3 words. Neutral. Not an invitation, but not a rejection. It was the first brick in a new, different, more distant wall. A wall with a very clear gate. One that she would only be allowed through if she could respect the people who lived inside. So, I'm left here, in the apartment I pay for, with the woman I love, trying to build a life on my own terms. I took back the key. I defended my partner. I stood my ground against a lifetime of conditioning. But my family says I was too harsh. That I broke my mother's heart over a little misunderstanding. That I should have been the bigger person. So I have to ask, am I the A****? The story ends here, but our journey doesn't have to. If you want to join me for the next tale, please subscribe and ring that bell. Your support means everything. Thanks for watching.